Hey, what's up, guys? Zach and Jay Har.
Jay Har.
Hi,
I'm Jay Har.
So this is Jay Har now. Zach and Jay are here with Extreme Outfitters, and today we are talking about sights. So we are going to dive into a little bit more detail with sights, not a particular sight, but just when making a purchase for a sight, some things that you really need to consider. And go ahead and jumping right into that. One of the big debates right now is, or not right now, but it's been for a long time, and people still question it every time they come in, what should I go with, is single pin versus multi-pin, right? You can go with either option. Both are great options, but there are definitely some, I'd say, pros and cons to either one. Yep. So let's start off with the single pin sight. What are your thoughts on single pin sight, especially we're talking hunting application?
Right. So, I mean, I have used single pin sights for hunting in the past. I do enjoy it because there really is nothing clouding your entire sight picture. You just have that one pin, so it doesn't get as fuzzy when you have multiple pins there. So I mean, that's a really big pro right there.
Is clarity. Essentially, whenever you put that sight on an animal, you have more sight picture with less things obstructing your view, which is important.
Yes. Yeah, because if you can't see where the vitals are, then how are you going to be able to hit it?
Right.
So that is by far one of the biggest advantages. And obviously the downside of that is you only have one set yardage.
Right.
So if you draw back, like for me, it was a couple years ago, I had to draw back on a deer. It was about 40 yards. That was my only time to draw back. I never got a clear shot. It came in, and I had to let down. So it happens.
Right. And one of the things for me, I personally like a multi-pin sight for hunting purpose, just because I like that those 20, 30, 40 fixed, and I know that if that animal moves and I've pre-ranged indicators for yardage, right, I don't have to let down with that single pin to move to the exact yardage. I know I've got my holds right there all the way out to 40 yards. So I've always kind of stuck with that multi-pin approach. I feel most comfortable with it. I know we get a lot of guys that do come through here that are single pin guys, that's all they'll hunt with. They'll use a single pin, they like it, the clarity, there's nothing obstructing them whenever you go to put that actual pin on an animal that you're taking a shot on.
I've really grown more partial to either a 2 or 3 pin slider sight. I do like to practice out to really far distances. So I mean that is a big plus for me, and that's something that you can also consider right there.
And one of the things though too now is that a lot of the companies have moved to is you still get that single pin, but now you've got multi-pin single pin.
Right, so it's on one post.
It's one post, but you have multiple pins on that one post, which really eliminates now that need for those multiple pins coming out vertically or horizontally.
Yeah, horizontally.
So you go from single pin to multi-pin. Now we get into vertical versus horizontal.
Right.
So all my sights have always been the horizontal pins. That's still what I've run. That's just what I've run forever. But with the new sights that have come out, especially like, what is it? The
Torch.
The Torch, Spot Hog's the triple stack. There's a lot of sight companies that have gone through with those vertical multi-pin options, which is great because that really, you've got all the clarity in the world, and then you've got those multiple
indicators.
Yeah, indicators to go from to go off of. So there's lots of options, and it comes down to price point as well.
Right.
So that's a big thing to consider with it. So whenever you're going to make a sight purchase, do you want all the bells and whistles?
Or do you want to have something that's going to be a little bit more budget friendly? Like, especially if you're just getting into archery, that's where you could really kind of just be like, okay, well, or even just find something more of that middle price point, whereas this one right here from Fuse, this is more of a mid price point sight. So you're not going to spend a lot of money into it, but I mean, at the same time, you're still going to have those 5 pins.
It's going to do everything you need it to.
But it'll work just fine for you.
Right. Right. One of the other things too that's kind of we've had a lot of requests. We've had a lot of requests for this, more so I'd say in this past year on the hunting side of things is people going to that smaller pin as well.
Right.
So there's a lot of people that are really looking to get the least amount of obstruction in their view when they're looking for sight. So that's size of the pin, that's vertical pins. So one of the things that some of the companies have come out with is they are actually using the 10 thousandths and a 19 thousandths pin together in the same housing.
Yeah, just like here on this torch. This one actually has, your top pin is at 19 thousandths, and then that bottom pin is at 10 thousandths. Spot Hog offers that for a couple of their other sites. It'd be more of a special order for that,
Right.
but you can have different site or sized fibers if you need to. So that's something that you can also consider. So very, very nice option with that.
I personally don't like the 10 thousandths in the woods. I just have a hard time seeing it, and that's, you know, you gotta. One of the things that I would encourage people to do is actually come and look through them before they, you know, if you have the ability to stop in a shop and take a look through them, because a 10 thousandths fiber for me is just when you're outside, it's really hard for me to find it sometimes.
Especially in low light conditions.
Yes,
it will be
extremely.
harder to find. That's where also if you have a light that you can add a light kit on, like this torch has one built in, or a lot of them, they do come with them, like even this fuse, it comes with the little sight light. So if you need to throw that on, you know, when it's low light, early morning dusk, or early morning dawn, late dusk,
Right.
you can add that on. It does make it a lot better for that. One thing to counter that though is like, so I have slight astigmatism. So really big fibers, I get a lot of starbursting. So that's why I personally like a 10 thousandths pin. It just makes it a little bit better for me, so I don't get all that starbursting.
Right, and that's like when you look in something like this is a fixed 5-pin. So some people would have a hard time with that amount of clutter in their housing.
Right.
Would really kind of get lost or get that starburst effect and not be able to key in on one individual.
Everything starts blurring together.
Right, yeah, so it really makes it hard to get a good clear sight picture. So that's something else to consider too, really depending on your vision. I don't have an issue with it. I've got one of my bows has a fixed 5-pin on it. It's a Excel Realtek. I absolutely love that sight. I've used that sight for the last 3 years. So it really comes, it's really individual based.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
what do you like? What are you looking for out of it? And then the other thing too is that when you're buying a sight, is it just for one particular application? Like, so that Realtek for me, that is solely for hunting. That's the only thing I use that bow for, is bow hunting.
Right.
If someone has one bow and they're doing multiple things with it, they're shooting target, indoor, outdoor, 3D stuff, and they're hunting with it, they might want to go with something, a different option than a fixed 5-pin.
Right.
So that's where we get into, you know, slider versus non-slider, direct versus dovetail, as well as lens capability. Right.
And also adjustments, your first, second, third axis, because especially if you're going to be going more for a target setup, you're going to want to make sure that it's a stable platform that can be very adjustable and become very accurate.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if you're not accurate, then you're not going to compete.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the things, what's the difference between the direct versus the dovetail? What's the advantage to the dovetail, or, you know, or not?
So the biggest thing, like, so on this bow right here, the Mach 34, this one has a dovetail sight on it. So with that, you're actually able to slide your sight housing in and out. So if you're not getting good peep alignment, you can actually fine tune that more for that. Also with that, if you're traveling a lot, you could even take it off of your bow. So that's going to be able to make sure that your bow doesn't get knocked around and your sight doesn't get knocked off axis or anything like that.
Right.
So that is a really nice feature for that aspect.
Right. But also, that's more moving parts. So it's something to consider when in the field, especially if you're out on a backpacking trip, and you're staying out in the field. One more moving part could potentially be an issue.
Right.
So that's where you maybe you want to go with a direct mount option. Just something to consider. First, second, third axis, crucial, especially for anybody that's shooting any really like
Steep angles.
steep angles, whether you're out of a tree stand or hunting mountainous terrain.
Right.
So what is, as far as first, second, and third axis, what does it actually do in terms of sight, and how can it affect your accuracy?
Yep. So if so this sight where you're actually has first, second, and third axis capability, where you can actually adjust everything. So you have your first axis, which is basically this mount right here on this bar, which will mount directly under your bow. And then your second axis is going to be where your housing sits up or down this way. And then your third axis is going to be where it sits on this, I guess, like y-axis, or I'm not sure the exact terminology of that. But the biggest thing with that, so if you're taking a very steep shot, and you can't see it right here, but my bubble's all the way off. So if I'm like that, I'm actually going to be hitting way to the left. Or if it's the other way, if it's like that and you're aiming up, you're going to hit way off to the right. So that's where you want to make sure that everything is perfectly aligned.
And that's starting with a level bow and then leveling that sight.
Yeah. Or having a jig, like we have a jig that we actually I prefer to do it that way, so we make sure everything is 100% level.
Right. Yeah. So just other things to consider when making a site purchase. The site's an important piece of equipment, obviously. You've got the bow, the rest, the sight as well. Making sure that it has those capabilities. If it's within your budget, I would definitely opt for something that has the adjustment of first, second, third axis. Your entry-level sites aren't going to give you that.
Right.
But not everybody has the budget for that. The other thing to consider too is, like we talked about, if this is a multi-application bow, target, hunting, whatever, lens capability. Some people like shooting a lens hunting, like you did at one point in time, and then a lot of guys put them in for target series.
Yep.
So maybe considering a sight that you can put a lens in, whenever you're using that bow for target, indoor, whatever you're doing.
Yep, and that is a really nice feature too. A lot of bow companies or manufacturers right now for sights are coming with that option where you can actually incorporate a lens very easily. Yeah. So another great option right there.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things to consider when making a sight purchase. Okay. So you definitely want to, I think, put hands on for yourself and try, if you have the ability, get behind a couple different sites to really see what we're talking about. That single versus multi, vertical versus horizontal, and size difference in actual fibers to really see what makes sense for you.
Right, and you can also look at material as well. And, that's another wrench to throw in that gear right there.
Yeah.
What is that sight made out of? So like a lot of these are all aluminum housings, so they can be a little bit heavier. Like the Spot Hog, it can be considered a little bit heavier of a sight, which I really don't think is that bad. Or a lot of them are going to carbon, where they'll have a carbon bar, like the Excels. Redline has some. I think those are the two biggest ones right now that actually have a carbon bar on them. Right. Or carbon mount option.
Right. So looking at purchasing a new sight, there's not one that's, I don't think you can say is the best. Right. And like we said, it really comes down to personal preference, what works for each individual, and everyone's different, like I said, with eyesight and everything else. So
everything is just a completely personable experience, especially when you're at that point of building your bow. So it's never a question of did I make the right decision or the wrong decision. Right. It's just something honestly you have to play around with and see what you like. And 9 times out of 10, if you grab a sight and it's a good quality sight, you're going to have no problem with it regardless.
Yeah, any of these higher end sights are all going to have that first, second, and third ability for the most part that we carry anyways. So so when you're going to make a sights purchase,
lots to consider.
Lots to consider. It can almost be overwhelming. Yeah. So don't
rush into it.
Yes, absolutely. If you've got time, we're getting the season hasn't kicked off yet. We're a couple months ahead. That's why we encourage everybody to kind of get in the shops early and start doing their research so that you're not last minute trying to get a bow set up, sighted in, and get comfortable behind it. So now's the time to start looking. We carry a lot of these different sights. We've got Redline, Excel, B3,
Black Gold,
Fuse. We carry all of them.
Spot Hog.
Yes. So if you're looking for a new sight, head over to the website, extremeoutfitters.com. Check out all the different options we've got. We highly encourage you, if you're local, come into the shop, check them out. We mount them on your bow for you, let you try them out on the range to get a feel for them. And we do anything you purchase from us. There's no install fees. Right. We level everything, make sure and then we get you sighted in on our range. So.
Other than that, if you guys have any questions, obviously feel free to reach out to us. And again, we do appreciate you guys watching. Stay tuned for future content. Oh, we forgot our discount code.
We did.
Discount code EX10. Save you 10% on all your purchases, site-wide.
Yes. So.
Except for, what do we got that's not discounted?
So it doesn't work on any sale items. So if we've got any sales going on, it will not work on sale items. It also will not work on bows. We ship anything that ships out of here over $50 ships for free. So that excludes oversized items. So we're talking heavy targets, bows, crossbows, stuff like that. They won't ship for free, but the discount code is valid on those items. So except for bows, doesn't work on bows.
No bows.
Sorry. But besides that, follow along all our other social channels. We've got some really big giveaways coming up. Really big giveaways. So I would encourage you to head over to our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram. Either of those is where we will launch that. Besides that,
we have some events coming up too.
We do.
We have some pretty cool events lined up.
Yes, we can't release them yet. Some really good events in August, kicking off with some awesome companies that will be coming here to our shop.
Yeah.
So once we get all the details on that and hash them out, we will definitely let everybody know.
Yep.
Until then, follow along. If you've got any questions, let us know. Head over to the website, extremeoutfitters.com. You need to get a hold of us, got questions, call the shop, talk to any of the techs here. But we'll see you in the next video.
Yep. Appreciate you guys.